and it's also it's a tough town.
Noisy.
It's noisy. There's a lot of noise here, and you can get distracted very easily. You can get in with the wrong people very easily here, and or vice versa. You can go the opposite way. And I just kind of had to listen to myself. It took a trip to London, England, to make me realize that I needed to come back to the instrument, and literally unpack everything and just shut down from doing some pop music for a minute. It doesn't mean I'm not going to continue writing pop music, but it just means that I'm just throwing myself back at this instrument, ready to tour the world when it's ready, in the next year or two when we can kind of get back on the road, and bring just beautiful music. Again, I needed it in my life. So I figured if I need something, chances are it's going to connect with millions of people. I've always listened to that instinct. And if I'm missing something, chances are that many people globally are missing that same thing as well.
Yeah, and in the particular is the universal, right? That if you're feeling it, like that's another reason. Doubling down on yourself it ends up being universal. And speaking universal, I'm looking at the track list, and these are many of life's most profound themes, like fracture, change, nostalgia, solace, ghosts. Like I'm just reading, light. Like I'm
Yes.
reading, like these are song titles, and you're clearly not wrestling with trivial concepts here.
They're not, and I think we don't have time to go into them, but I decided to put my situation, and the stories will roll out over time for me, and there's a story behind every song, as you said. And the title, I even battled with the title of this album forever, because it's, to me, it's a story. It's like for a lot of ways, it's a male breakup album. It's an album to wallow in, to keep you comforted on a rainy day, to be sad to, as I said to you earlier, to study to be introspective to. I mean, I do a lot of research or reading, if you will, on the brain and the cortex, and the tempo of music, and how many hit songs have been at specific tempos, and why, for example, Baroque music allows the brain to absorb more material, because typically Baroque music's at 60 BPMs. It opens up the cortex. You can enter more information. So a lot of that stuff goes into the thought process for me as well. And that's why I keep on using the word conversation, because I try to be as subjective and honest as I am when I'm editing my piano stuff. And sometimes if there is a mistake in it, because you're going to hear that in the wood of this instrument, I'm going to let that slide if the attitude of the note is correct, if that makes any sense. I don't care if there's a slight wrong dissonant note, but if I'm communicating the emotion, I'd rather keep that in rather than try to fix it up and clean it up. There's a book that someone gave to me a few years ago called Wabi-Sabi, and I don't know if again. I
have it on my shelf.
You do?
Right here. It's the next room, directly above me. I have it. It's white with green letters.
You know it then, right? And it's in many ways it's allowing, because there's perfection and imperfection. I mean, grit's a big thing, and I know that you are a big fan of that, and with Angela, who's been on the show many times with you, I think things are transient. Nothing's really everlasting, if that makes any sense. And the more that you're able to accept that, the better off I think you are. At least I am now as an adult. I find that I'm more, there's a calmness to me. As you can tell, my brain races. I stumble over my words half the time, because I was always a victim of overanalysis paralysis. Mm-hmm. And that's what these albums are as well for me. They're therapeutic, they're healing, because I got to get out of my own way, if that makes any sense.
It does, but that's like these huge themes, and if you connect these huge themes, you're dissecting your own personal experience, and you're doing it through action, right? You're playing. What does it sound like? What does it feel like? What's the emotion? Is it working or not? Trusting your instinct. Like, this is just this, like, it's an amazing feedback loop that obviously has produced 16 insane tracks.
Well, thank you. I mean, but people don't realize I probably recorded 23 hours of music, reduced it to 3, reduced it to 52 minutes.
Wow.
And that's, in that process, it took me maybe to release this album has taken forever, to be honest. But the recording process has only taken a few months, if that.
We started talking about having you on the show when I believe back when you started recording, right? We started communicating a couple of years ago, and I had taken to your social feeds, and again, you backlit with the French cinema in the background and glasses of red wine, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool, and it's just you're doing your own thing, and we're like, cool, I'm recording an album when the time is right. I'd love to be on the show. Thanks for the invite, Chase. And that was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago. And it's because I connected clearly with what you've been, spreading for the last so many years, and you as a creator yourself. And I said, this guy gets it. And there's so much that I feel like I can share. There's so much that I want to expose about the process. There's so much I want to expose about sometimes when you say that the industry, there's a lot of, I think it's important to hear it from a guy like me. I work with some of the most incredible artists. I'm not going to call them incredible. I work with some of the most successful artists, but successful doesn't mean the best. I sit there and some of them truly are the best. I can sit there and tell you that Celine Dion is one of the best singers in the world because she is. I mean, and she'll sit there for 12 hours until she gets every note right emotively. And I've also worked with successful artists that I'm kind of laughing and going, why the hell am I like spending my time and this person can't sing and I'm trying to fix their notes, their song, their voice on autotune, and all of a sudden they become a big pop star. You feel a bit like a fraud at times, but I guess that's pop culture. It's fabricated. We always say we're living our best life on Instagram. We don't show the gritty side, the bad side, the ugly side, and there's also an ugly side to music, and there's an ugly side to it. So I think for me, I've just returned to the instrument that I'm most truthful with. That's all. I come back to the word therapeutic and healing because
the truth just sounds different though, and Steven from YouTube Live says there's no such thing as right sound and wrong sound. There's just sound, and your sound, this is the part where you said early on in our conversation about sort of doubling down on yourself, doubling down on what your own experiences are, doubling down on the experiences that can make you feel the emotions like fracture, sea change, light.
Exactly.
Like, what does the process of learning to trust yourself look like? Because clearly at some point you didn't trust yourself. Talk to me about the contrast when you didn't trust yourself and when you started to.
I think I just when I was hiding behind. That's not to say, listen, when you're producing with these artists, doesn't mean that every time I'm hiding, but sometimes you can just kind of get buried and hide behind a song and produce. And I was guilty of it in the beginning, where I would just, even with production, I would just put element, instrument after instrument after instrument. Just thought wallow sounds better, bigger the better. Then you quickly realize it's not. And then you realize, and then you study design, and you study, architecture, and you realize that if everything is built properly, it's like a salad. You go to a 5-star restaurant and all of a sudden you go, simple salad. Why does it taste so great? It's because the lettuce was picked probably that day.
This is an amazing analogy, by the way. This is amazing.
The vinaigrette was made. I mean, one of my favorite analogies that I want to enlighten all of us. We live in an age now. I mean, if we asked anybody under the age of 25, everybody probably believes under the age of 25 that music should be free. We devalued music. Everything else has become more expensive in life. But we'll pay $4.95 for a Starbucks caramel frappuccino, and it's in your stomach and it's gone. But we won't pay $1.29 for a single when my parents have probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my musical education, put me through school. I've bled, I've put in the hours, and we think that we complain at $9.99 Spotify membership to have music unlimited. People have bled. They've gone to school. They've studied for 10, 15, 20 years to create that song, to get in a relationship, to just be hurt badly emotionally and bring you that piece of music that puts the goosebumps on you. I think music's healthier than that Starbucks coffee for $4. Go spend the $1.29, but we're too late. We've already taught people that music should be free. But that's, again, another sort of rant of a 40-something-year-old. But it's I don't know where I'm going.
No, there's however you show up to support artists. Maybe that's a reasonable takeaway, right? You're if it's the $10 on Spotify, more importantly, when we get out of this pandemic, it's showing up to see performance live. And I've seen a couple comments here. Again, they're flowing by, people who have seen you live, and I think one word I saw was breathtaking. And to that end, can you play something else for us?
I can.
We're not in the room with you, but it feels damn close. And if you have headphones on right now, or you're listening on your phone as you're on a walk around the lake, or maybe if you're at the gym, why don't you sit down on the bench here and listen? I'm dying. It feels like I'm in the room with you, maybe because I have some quality headphones on. But
just to that point, before I play, I want to quickly talk about the fact that to create the vibe in here, what you don't see on the other side of this computer is that there's a pretty big floor, a big studio with 3 other acoustic pianos. There's a big, I've got a big grand piano there, and a couple other uprights and stuff like that. And I got an incredible engineer who's responsible for making sure even the podcast is well mic'd.
It sounds incredible. Thank you.
That's J. Paul Bicknell. Now, but when I did this album chase, I wanted to make sure that this is the piano room. This is an actual ISO booth that we transformed into a sort of mid-century apartment to make it feel like I was literally like living by myself. And the only thing I was a broken human being with an instrument. And so that I can have this intimate relationship with the piano. So on that note, I'll play you. We created that in this bigger complex here in Santa Monica, and I will play you a song called Sea Change. Again, which this song, I don't even know where it came from on the album. I was just improvising, and all of a sudden I heard it, and I said, "Damn!" I said that just kind of came through me, and. Here's Sea Change, and thank you so much.
Wow. More goosebumps you talked about. Like hairs standing up on my arm. That was Sea Change.
Sea Change.
Off Stefan's new album, and comes out on the 28th, but maybe I'll in a different maybe the folks who are tracking this on my team can cut and paste a way to pre-order that.
I'm sure we'll take care of it.
Yeah, for sure. We want to make sure that that's in there. And again, Stefan Macchio, tell us the space comment you made right before you started playing resonated with myself and with a handful of folks in the comments here. Gina particularly wants to hear us talk about this physical environment you created, essentially a mood. I wrote about it in Creative Calling, and you've mentioned architecture.
Great book. I mean, I haven't. No, we'll talk about that at some other point. But,
thank you.
It's
this, architecture you've mentioned, the space you're talking about, how things make you feel. Talk to me about that, about the environment that you've set up for yourself as a creator when you step into the studio.
I think that's an addendum to your earlier question. You were talking about process. I think into success, to ensure, and whatever success means. Success doesn't mean like fame and all that kind of that bullshit. It just means success in creating something authentic and pure. So in order to do that, you have to just kind of it's a bit of homework to do and preliminary work beforehand. I wanted to create a very intimate dialogue between the piano and I. So when I came back from Christmas 2018, I was on January 1st, January 2nd. I had this piano was brand new, and we were just I knew the sound I was after. So I went for that felted sound. I knew that I had to create an environment with candles and just Persian rug and just make it look like a sort of half beat up apartment and feel like I had to kind of get there, because every element, the more senses you are able to awaken, the more you feel that the experience is authentic and pure, if that makes any sense. So it's like going to a Cirque du Soleil show. Sometimes they'll even pump stuff in the air, some oxygen and some sense. And the music's another sense, the visual's another sense. So the more that you can awaken, the more that it's going to be believable and truthful. So and the same thing goes. I mean, kind of if I'm working with my homies or I'm working on a hip hop track, I'm not going to be bringing scented candles, to that session per se. It's you've got to be yourself, whatever that means. I mean, just you have to be in a place where you're calm and you're collected, but you also doing your research is such a big part of that process and creating that environment, which is going to create, I think, if this little room didn't look the way it did, I think that it adds 10% value to my sound. I really do. It's cherry on top.
I couldn't agree more. And this idea of how many creators out there have taken a second and thought about when you feel the most creative, when you're the most connected, what's your environment? What are the people? What is the place? What did you do before? What did you do during? What did you do after? And this is what real professional artists do. They go to work, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And right now, if you don't have a studio space, you can create, I've talked about when I didn't have the space that I wanted, or when I what I did. And it can be as simple if you need to create while you're on the subway, on the train, on the way to work, maybe the best thing you can invest in is a $200 set of noise canceling headphones.
Sure.
If that can put you in the space, it's not like whatever the thing is for you, and doing what you can with what you have. Is if I'm going to extract what I'm hearing from Stefan's comments there, it's the people who do this professional, they craft the experience that they want to have. Sure, it may be privileged to be able to own the fancy Yamaha piano, or to be able to have the felt applied and customized, maybe the candles, all these things. But if you are a professional, you sit down to go to work, you might as well create the environment architecturally, emotionally, conceptually, spiritually, whatever it is that you have created that makes your heart sing when you performed your best. This is why athletes have rituals. This is why it's not an accident.
100%. I mean, I get so upset when somebody says, well, I don't have the fancy microphones. Well, that's bullshit. I mean, I didn't have the fancy microphones, and I took the risk on myself. And you go broke, and you if you believe in yourself, if you've got something to say, there's no one else that's going to believe in you more than you. You have to do it. And the flip side to the comment on creating space, I concur with everything you just said. I also know, because I'm guilty of it, is too much fussiness. We do it when we're nervous. The great architect Frank Gehry says every time before he starts a project, he just makes sure his pencils are in the right place and the paper's the right way. And he sits and stares at it for like hours, because it's not until you put your first strike and you kind of go, where's that C sharp going to lead me to right now? It could, lead me to or this. And you make decision after decision after decision after decision, and you have to be so confident in your decisions. And also you have to know that it's okay to make the wrong decision.
But this is like, if people ask what it's like to be a professional and go to work, this is to me as one of the biggest gaps in our culture in understanding what, and you do not have to be crystal clear. You do not have to, if you're watching this, listening to Stefan, you do not have to be a professional musician. You do not have to be a professional artist to get value out of exercising your own creativity. But if you want to, or if you want to develop your craft in such a way as the professionals develop it, listen to what Stefan is saying. This is what true professionals do when they go to work. What worked last time? What mood do I want to create? What headspace is it helpful to be in, and doing what you can to put it. You talked about a bunch of life changes that you have just recently gone through.
Of course.
You sat in those in order to create this. That is what a professional does.
A lot of people are probably listening to this and they're not near a Mecca center like LA or New York. And I need to remind them, I'm born in a small town. I never lived here. And I had to move here physically. I had to apply for immigration, come across it's complex stuff, but it was all driven by my passion for music. You think about it. It was all driven because I felt like I had something to say. Professional doesn't mean better. It just means that you're getting paid to do what you love to do. But at one point, every professional had to take a risk on themselves. And there are probably sometimes even better piano players living in Arkansas, possibly. And but if you're not going to put yourself in the arena to be showcased, you can't complain. You have to. There's so much. Again, the failure part is so important. It's important to be able to make mistakes and get back up, and to know that, the only way that you're going to grow, the only way that you're going to get better is when you find out that that's not as nice as that. And so just do it. Like, literally, just do it.
That's the best advice. And it's easy to receive that in a hard way if you are stuck right now. And so I'm looking at you who might be looking at me and be stuck right now. You have to listen to Stefan. You have to, because there is nothing else. If you're in your parents' basement making music and you want to have a voice that changes lives and impacts others, you do not have to. You can extract all of the value of art for yourself just in the creative process. But if you want to do something more than that, it's on you. If you don't believe in you, who will?
Of course.
Right? As you've just
100%.
said.
100%.
Vanessa, Julio, Sheila, another Stefan, another Gary, Joanne. Again, we've got a global audience that are asking if you've got time for one more. We're coming up on 90 minutes, and I want to make sure that you've played everything that you want to play, Stefan.
I'm thinking. I mean, there's so much.
I know you've got. This is a huge album too, by the way. 16 tracks on the piano. That's, I mean, wow.
Yes.
And you said you wrote 20 something hours worth of music?
I wrote 23 hours plus. Listened to all 23 hours. You know, I reduced to approximately 3 hours, and then eventually those 3 hours. You know, technically I have 2 more albums in the can and ready to go. It's just that the art of the album is lost in today's playlist world, which is not a bad thing or a good thing, but I still, being a bit old school myself, I love artists who have visions. For example, when Picasso says, I'm going to go through my blue period, for so many years, Picasso was painting just blue-black paintings, and there's consistency. So, for example, pre the playlist, when I would listen to great soundtracks and film scores that I loved that would allow me to study or read to in university, there was always 1 or 2 songs that came off the score that just didn't make sense, and you'd have to get up and change it. So I think that was another element that, curating the order of the songs for me, the vinyl that's coming up for this album was so important, that everything sort of like made sense and it had a flow to it. But I'll stop talking because
no. Can I make sure before I want to put my bid in for the vinyl when it comes out? You can give me the heads up.
So excited about the vinyl because I heard a test of it a few weeks ago, and it sounds it's for those of us who grew up with vinyl, it puts you right in a headspace and in a place. Nuit Blanche, because I'm French as well. This just means like sleepless night, and haven't we all had sleepless nights? That's this piece.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Stefan Macchio, for those of you who joined late, congratulations on your new album. Congratulations on all those Grammy and Academy noms and hit songs with Celine Dion, The Weeknd, Miley Cyrus, Seal. I could list more.
No, and it's funny. We say those things because we have to say them, and they give context to who the person is. But here I am on the other side of it. It's just, I'm just still struggling at the end of the day to just put out great music. That's all it is. It's just like you get out of bed every time, every day, and your goal is, okay, well, so I did that. I mean, you have to push it forward, and I look back at my life. It's exciting to say that stuff, but more importantly, half the time I'm tormented on the chords that I'm wrestling with that day, or the sound of the piano, and how it's going to, I just say this, Chase, because I've been there. I've been in that house. I've been 14 years old, frustrated, knowing I was going to create melodies that the world was going to sing, but I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And I had those questions, and And I'm just kind of trying to answer those questions for my 13, 14, 15-year-old self. And it's just, you just keep on doing it. You know, David Foster, it's just so serendipitous that you had him on. But I mean, he's a Canadian like myself, but he'd heard me play when I was 18. And David said to me when I was 18, he says, all I know is that you have the potential to be world class. You are amazing, but no one's going to do it other than you. You have to keep on trucking. Just keep on moving forward. You know, and here we are 25 years later, friendship it's that same thing. You know, the answer is not an easy one, and people think that it's just going to be all of a sudden this magical answer, and it's going to be amen. It's going to open up. It's just work.
It's just work.
Your passion. Work your passion. When I'm doing a project, a lot of times I put signs up and say follow your gut, meaning don't try to be something else musically that you're not. And every time that I do that, like I try to be who I am, it works. It just connects with people. And you have to remind yourself sometimes.
Well, I want to echo a comment that I just read from Ash Jensen, which is big thank you to whoever had you start playing the piano. Must have been your parents.
It was my parents, yeah.
Grateful for them steering you. And of course, more grateful for all of the decades of work you've put in. Congratulations. It's been incredible to have you on the show. And just a quick recap, new album, Tales of Solace, out in 30 days here. There's a couple of links in the comments below if you're watching where you can pre-order that or order it when it comes out. Stefan Macchio, somewhere between around 3 to 4 years in the making to have you on the show, and I'm glad we were patient. And congrats on the new album. Any place you'd like to steer folks? I know you're Stefan Macchio at on most of the social channels where I pay attention to you. Yeah. That's STEPHANMOCCIO. If you're listening now and you want to go follow. Anywhere else you'd steer folks who want to get more of what we just sampled here in our conversation today?
No, I mean, you said all the socials and, of course, streaming platforms, Apple Music and Spotify, Deezer. I mean, there's Amazon. And if anything, I hope that I get to see many of you when I have the chance to tour, whenever that will become possible as well. I mean, you know, when you think about how that's impacted artists in the last 3-4 months, I mean, that's, you know, artists' livelihood. They can't go out and perform. So we have avenues like this and your show to bring the music to people. But I just hope that you can come up and experience a live show, because that's, for me, in my art, that's where it's at, the live experience.
I will trust that you will let me know, and I will be happy to share that with
I'll see you in Seattle.
Creative community that pays attention to what I'm doing. And again, so grateful. Look forward to connecting the next time I'm in LA or that we're able to travel. And for those of you who may be curious, we are going to continue this conversation for just a few more minutes over at my Instagram. We're going to do a little Instagram live momentarily. And the same as if you follow Stefan, he will, I think he's going to join my IG live. Is that what we're going to do?
That's what I'm going to do, I think.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. I am grateful, and to all of the folks who behind the scenes made this happen, Adam and John and Nasa and Julie on our end. And I know you've got some management and labels and all those things. Again, long time in the making to be able to perform these songs that are not yet out live on the air. I want to say thanks to everyone involved. So signing off.
Chase, you are amazing. Amazing. Thank you. Really. Just thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you, man.
Thank you.
You're the star today. Bask in it, and we'll see you all over at on my IG channel here shortly. Until then, hopefully tomorrow. Stay tuned.